Oh, it's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
I love you.
I know.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Hello and welcome to another episode of How to Be a Movie Snob with your host, Seth from the On the Mouth from Oregon. Coming to you live in the Make It Known Media studio office thingy. That's really just my downstairs. Joined in studio with the Summer Mariah herself, Miss
Numbers. Miss Numbers.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Mariah Numbers 1.
What can't she?
And is he real? Is he not? Is he drawn? Or is he actually a video? Mr. Patrick.
Hello.
Do we have a
Great to be here.
Do we have a nickname for him? Nickname for Pat?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Too many.
More than one.
None I really.
Not
None.
appropriate for this podcast.
None. This is this podcast. Some may call it a doozy. I don't know if that can be or not, depending on your level of dooziness. This movie has often been considered the best Western of all time, arguably. This is also a kind of return to a genre that a filmmaker thought he left. It was, the money's too good. Might as well.
Financially, he had to.
Might as well go for it again.
Yeah.
It has influenced many of filmmakers. This, along with arguably this one or the previous film from this filmmaker. This is the second film we have reviewed of this director. But this is the first one where he actually had to change his lead actor. So, who wants to reveal this film?
Anyone?
I'll say it.
Do it.
Once Upon a Time in the West.
Da da da. And is this the first Once Upon a Time movie? Because now they have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Once Upon a Time in
America.
Yeah.
Mexico.
Yeah.
Mexico.
America.
This is kind of the first one, right?
I believe so.
'Cause, I mean-
then he did it.
And
he
it's
did it
only
again,
one
and
of
Robert
two.
Rodriguez and
Yes.
Quentin Tarantino
Yeah.
stole the name.
Yeah. And this is the first of
No
the
one said Once Upon a Time before.
Yeah. I mean, other than, Snow White. Which we've also
Other than every story.
reviewed.
Yeah, other than all the
Please
fairy
like,
tales.
subscribe, and continue to listen. So this one is the
Hey, you're voice actors.
pay unless you can get away with it. All right, thanks. That's an inside joke from the Snow White episode. This is the first of a trilogy, the Once Upon a Time trilogy. Only two of those three bear the name Once Upon a Time. The second, someone please say the name for the second movie.
Duck,
Duck,
you
you
sucker.
Duck. Folks, we're not lying.
Sucka.
Sucker.
It's definitely Sucka for sure. Definitely S-U-C-K.
I believe
Hey.
the tentative thread is times of turmoil or something.
Yeah.
Can we also say, is it duck, comma, you sucker?
Oh.
Sucka?
Yeah. We'll get the research team on
I
that
believe so.
Yeah.
sometime.
It's important that we clarify that.
No, it is sucker.
Oh.
Sucker! Exclamation point.
Oh,
My bad.
boo.
I
was-
probably
mixed it up with-
pronounced.
I was.
I'm gonna
Sucka.
get you.
I just
Sucka.
wished it was Sucka.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest. Okay, so this movie, we're going to start out, as we always do, with hot takes and cold brews. We're going to start from the land down over. Mr. Pat, isn't that what they call Seattle? The land down over? No?
I've
never
heard that once.
Just now.
And then the last minute.
I was just there today, and they didn't
They
say
didn't
it
say that.
one time.
I've been from the
Yeah.
land down
She
over.
didn't see me.
That's
avoided.
awkward.
Close.
At all costs.
Family relationship. Should we talk about this on the podcast?
At the end,
At
maybe.
the end, okay.
Yeah, air it out. So yeah, my not probably super hot take because I think a lot of people would share it. It's one of the more intense yet boring movies I've watched in a while.
It's hard to be camping, but still. Not that kind of intense. My fault. Dad joke alert.
I think you're 2 for 2 the last couple of movies and stuff like that.
So yeah, that's a good one. Okay, Mariah, I gotta hear it. Hot take, cold brew. It's all up to you.
My first hot take was that I just hate this movie.
Until.
But after a few attempts
There we go.
today, I will say I don't hate it.
There we go.
But I do strongly dislike the beginning.
Okay.
Boring and gross. I think that's
Boring
the
and
hot
gross.
take. Boring
Oh,
and
man.
gross first 45 minutes.
I think this is the best spaghetti western ever made. And I love The Good and Bad and the Ugly. But this is better. This has more, I mean, you have more effects. Unfortunately, the storylines, and the only reason I'm saying this is because I feel like it checks all the boxes. But this is the best spaghetti western ever made. I'm not sure if it's the best western ever made.
I believe it was the best budget spaghetti western.
And is it really a spaghetti western when one of the scenes is shot in America? That's the other question.
That's a good question. I think more than one. I believe they were in Arizona and Utah.
Oh, I thought they were only in Utah. Oh well, to be determined. We'll do the research team on that later. Okay, so those are some pretty hot takes. We're all over the board here. The best, the worst, and it was all right.
The longest.
And
Is it the
the
longest
The good, the
spaghetti
bad,
western?
and the ugly.
Yeah,
I believe it's the longest spaghetti western.
So Mariah, before
Longer in Italy. By the
Yeah,
way, this was the
the
shorter version.
no, we did not see
Props.
the shorter version because the shorter version
was like
left out
160 or 140.
a lot. Like you didn't see a lot of people. Oh, I just lost all the characters. You didn't see the bandit who's the good
They don't
bandit.
Cheyenne.
Die in the American version. You didn't see like there's a lot of key plot points that you just didn't see.
Maybe that's why it was a flop.
And that's why it was a flop. Speaking of flops, Money Mariah, that's what we're calling her. We're calling her Money Mariah. How did I forget that? Money Mariah, could you give us some numbers of this movie? Because it's kind of fascinating.
Yeah, this was not a success at the box office
Not in America.
in America. Worldwide, the box office. Oh no, that's U.S. Worldwide, the box office was 5.3 million. The budget was 5 million. So, not a lot of money made.
No, I think it made it made over 40 million in the worldwide, 5.3 in the U.S.
No, it was 40 million tickets.
Because it was so
Worldwide.
cheap back then. I was like, that's like $12 a pop.
They were probably like a nickel. Also, half the budget was spent on the actors.
That's true.
So that's really where most of that money went. We had some big actors.
Should we before we jump into them, let's do a little summarizing. We're going to two things right out of the goose. Sorry, this is going to be a rough one too. But let's summarize this movie if we can, because there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on.
This summary is a doozy, you guys.
Truth.
It really is. How do we even begin here?
Let's start with the gal, even though she's not in the first scene. So I would start with, personally, say,
Jill.
there's a gal.
Jill is...
Mrs. McBain.
There we go.
She's coming from New Orleans, where she left a lucrative career as a prostitute to settle down with Mr. McBain and his children. Cute little gingers.
Those are the worst. Like, that was not their hair color. That was so bad.
You don't think?
So
Not natural.
as soon as I'm like, come on, those are the worst wigs ever.
Fire red.
Worst. What? Anyways, keep going.
Not super believable.
No.
At least not for some of them. She gets there only to find out they're all dead. Sorry.
Wah, wah.
Wah, wah. Supposedly killed by Cheyenne.
Supposedly.
Because he...
Cheyenne's gang.
And
Wore distinctive hand dusters.
Yeah. The duster guys pointed to Cheyenne being in charge of this attack.
A duster, for those folks at home, is not something you dust with, but actually a coat you wear.
Trenchy coat.
Just a little fun fact.
Western trenchy coat.
Yep.
Yeah. Anywho,
Back in Flagstone.
she quickly finds out it's not Cheyenne. Also, oh gosh, this is just getting already. It's muddy.
A mysterious stranger shows up around the same time.
Yep.
Looking for a guy named Frank.
Yes, sir. What's this guy's name?
Henry Fonda.
No, harmonica.
Harmonica. Not the actor.
Not the actor. And he's
Charles
not even the
Bronson.
actor because that's Charles Bronson.
Yeah, but
Bronson.
he's not called harmonica till probably the first hour.
Yeah, no one calls him anything.
But he
Yeah,
doesn't
just
really
Cheyenne
speak
calls him
either. He just
harmonica.
plays the harmonica.
Yeah. Picks
For
a
the
fight
most
and
part.
doesn't pick a fight.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, for those at home, he also was the first scene, which is this awesome shootout where they're just sitting there forever.
Waiting for him to get off the train.
Yeah, that was a bold move to have. It was 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It was 10 minutes. Playing
Yeah.
with a fly.
This is where my hatred for the movie began.
Yeah, I thought it was 8 minutes till the train came.
It was
Yeah.
it was a lengthy
Yeah.
wait with not a lot going on.
Man, the reveal was cool though. Him on the other side of
Oh,
the
yeah.
train. Oh, that was so cool. One of my favorite reveals in any movie. And again, these three
jumping.
awesome looking actors you'll never see again.
They're
In
gone.
the movie, they're gone.
They're gone.
They're so interesting looking, and you're like, oh, I want to know the backstory. We're gonna get really like deep with. No, they dead. They gone.
Yeah.
Just
Like
some
when you're
goons.
thinking that at Good, Bad, the Ugly, Seven Samurai.
Oh my goodness, so good.
Okay, so we're 20 minutes in to the 3-hour movie. Then what happened?
My first nap
Yep.
happened. Well, they have the funeral. She starts sorting through the house and finds some information about what Mr. McBain had planned. He had some plans.
Sweetwater.
Turned out Sweetwater, the homestead, is the only location of water anywhere around. And he knew the railroad was a coming through. And he had big plans to make a station and a town all around this. He was going to be really rich. But there are some people plotting against him.
Dun dun dun.
Yes.
Who are these people, Mariah?
Well, there's the rich railroad bad guy,
Mr. Morton, I believe.
Morton on crutches, gets his buddy Frank, big bad guy, to intimidate McBain, but he doesn't.
Hear him real good.
He just kills him.
Yeah, that was the other thing too. Like we will talk about this probably in a little bit, but it was really like you weren't sure who the bad guys were. The bad guys were very like, who's bad? Is the guy who can't walk the real bad guy? No, he just wasn't. He just hired the really bad guy.
Right.
The only guy you knew you hated was Henry Fonda's character,
But the first one they want you to think is the bad guy is Cheyenne.
which is great. That's a great.
Oh, and he's
Great
kind
mystery.
of a bad guy.
Oh, he totally is
He's
a
not
bad
a
guy.
good guy.
With
But
a
he's
heart
with
of gold.
with a heart. Beat me to it.
Just like
With a
the
heart of gold.
prostitute.
This is basically Pretty Woman. I just realized that. This is the same plot.
Sure.
Yeah.
Dusty version.
Yeah.
Dusty version.
Well, no, maybe the same amount of bubble baths.
Truth.
It's
a lot of
true.
bubble baths for the Old West here.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens?
What else? Well, then we kind of get to the whole battle for how are these bad guys going to get a hold of this land?
Yeah.
You know, Frank has this motivation to get it for himself. Morton just wants to get control of it.
He wants to just get to the ocean. And
To
he
get-
needs that
He wants to see the
railway to
Pacific
keep going.
desperately.
That's right.
Yeah, no holdups. But yeah, so
Yeah, and I think that was his motivation, that the station might delay.
or just
the
make it
train
more
getting built?
make it more expensive for him, I think.
I couldn't figure it out. Like,
Yeah. Why was
Also-
he slowing him down?
what a crazy plan. Like, I'm just going to ride my train
As it's being
as the tracks are getting built.
sure.
And buy stuff
There's
along the
also-
way. Yeah.
A lot of weird, like, the train was constantly going, and people just kept riding to it. And I thought, like, well, it's never going backwards, is it? Like, is it is it just continually getting further and further away from the city we're sort of in?
I'm curious about
I couldn't quite figure out where it was ever in.
Curious about the total
State.
distance this train went from the beginning to the end of the movie.
Yeah, because they're constantly like, let's get it going again.
Yeah.
It's like, did it move like a mile? 400 feet? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. Well, so
then everyone kind of, they all kind of
Everyone converges,
at some point.
yeah. One team kind of splits up. Morton and Frank kind of have a disagreement, and they're not really on each other's side anymore. But then Cheyenne kind of joins Harmonica in his quest to help Jill get the train station built and before the train gets there.
But then Jill seems like she's in cahoots with, well, do we get to the rapey scene with Henry Fonda's character?
We're going to need to like circle back on that. I got thoughts.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there because for a while there, I'm like, are they in together?
I wonder.
Then,
there's
it
a
was
lot
very
of
confusing.
what is Jill thinking right now?
Yeah, I couldn't say. Yeah.
I'm gonna go along with this and just I'm scared and petrified, and I'm just gonna do what I always did as a hooker.
Self-preservation was kind
Yeah,
of where I landed.
she seemed to have shut
Going
down.
into that scene, you're like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why are you helping him take your clothes off?
A lot of there's a lot of not
pushing the
sure.
corset down.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then the music was so romantic.
Yeah. it's the
was
part
like,
of the movie where I don't like
what?
Henry Fonda's acting.
Oh.
I'm like, he's trying to be a little too Henry Fonda in this part.
Oh, instead of just
Like
a creep, because he's
it's
an
creepy,
amazing
but
creep.
he's a little more nice than creepy in parts of it too. I'm kind of like,
yeah.
Isn't that kind of add to the creepiness though?
I think if they wanted to shave this movie
Maybe.
down a bit, this would have been a good part.
Yeah, very unnecessary, really.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
But man, just weird.
Yeah. So
And then, is there more we actually have to discuss?
basically, yeah. Then they find out everyone kind of double crosses each other. The weird part is Henry Fonda starts making sure that Harmonica makes sure that Frank doesn't get killed by his old men who are double crossing him, and that was the most confusing part.
Well, I think he just wanted to do it himself.
Well, yeah, that's still
Yeah.
but
At the right moment.
At the right moment, but it seems unnecessary to have to kill other people. But again, like it was like okay,
None of them are
Well, why did
solidly good guys.
yeah, for sure.
as
The
she
killings-
said, why did you save his life? And he
Like,
said,
oh, it's different.
I stopped them from killing him.
Right,
It's different.
That's different.
Yeah.
that's different. Yep.
And you're like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, they kind of did it in like a, hey, what time is it? So he'd look up at the painted clock, you know.
Oh,
he
it's
wasn't
so
like,
good.
always overly helpful. It's like,
No.
well, I'll give you a chance.
I'll give you help here.
Frank.
Yeah.
And we don't forget the whole storyline where that since Jill has the land, she's going to auction it off, but then no one's going to spend any money except for then
Because they're being intimidated.
because they're being intimidated
not
not
to
to
bid
doing
on
it. And then of course
Frank was going to buy it.
and then of course Harmonica does buy it, and the reason why he buys it is because he has Cheyenne for the $5,000 because everyone thinks Cheyenne killed the family.
bounty on his head.
And then he goes onto a train and he gets sent away, and you're like, oh no, he's going away on train. But then, so
He
is that
miraculously gets out of that.
I assume he gets out of that, and
He still has a gang. He had help.
yeah, I guess so. And then there's
But I don't think he needed it because the first time we meet him, you hear all this ruckus outside the saloon, and Cheyenne walks in, and then his gang shows up like 10 minutes later, and he's like, "About time you got here. Like I would have been in jail if I waited for you," because like he freed himself.
That's
So there's
true.
a little bit
true.
like,
Some
Cheyenne,
foreshadowing is happening.
It's fine.
Yeah.
You know, he'll get out of these
he is
shenanigans.
he is
No
a
big
likable character.
Yeah. So a couple of fight scenes later, you know, big gun showdown, a train fight. Not in that order.
But the train fight we don't see, right? The train fight we just show up and everyone's dead. Wait, which train fight?
When
Oh, that
Cheyenne
train
shows
fight.
up and frees
Oh, okay,
Harmonica,
Yeah, that's later.
the boot in the window.
Yeah, there's
Silly train fight
the silly train fight was hilarious.
we see.
Yeah.
And then when
You can
when
shoot,
Frank
but can you
discovers
cut?
he'd been double crossed,
Mhm.
and he goes back to the train and finds Morton crawling in the mud, which apparently is where Cheyenne was fatally wounded in that fight. And
Yeah,
we'll
he
find
hangs
out
on for a
till
bit.
later.
Hang on.
That scene was also deleted in the American version. Very surprising. So, yep. And then, so Frank, that's after, oh my gosh, I just watched it. Now I forgot. When's the shootout's the last scene, or is
Pretty close.
him riding out?
Yeah.
Does Frank die before?
He kills him.
Then does it the Cheyenne scene, or is it Cheyenne scene then?
Yeah, no. Cheyenne
Dies after
and
Frank.
Jill are watching or hanging out in the house while the gunfight's going on.
That's right.
Then he comes in and he gets his gear and he's like, "Oh, maybe be back."
And so
And then they both leave.
another big plot point is we never know who Harmonica is, or why he hates Frank, or why he has to save Frank for himself. And then
Till the flashback.
Till the
at
flashbacks.
the end.
Big spoiler here, folks. There's a scene where Harmonica is standing and his brother's standing on his shoulders, and his brother's got a noose around his neck, and he has to stand there until he can't stand no more. And then you see him kind of pass out, and his brother gets hung, and then Frank puts a harmonica in his mouth, and he keeps that harmonica until he kills
Frank. And
puts that harmonica
the last moments of Frank's
Frank's
life.
mouth.
And then Frank's
It's
like,
kind of-
now I know who you are.
Seems logistically challenging to set up that double stack brother situation.
It's very creative.
Like, how did they get him up? How did they get brother one up first
Mhm.
to get the noose around, and then you have brother two there and start the whole balancing act? It just seemed complicated.
Also, could you bite into an apple at the moment that he gives up and loses his balance?
That's true. Well, they're probably there for a while.
But I think that's generally what happened in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
You give or take a bunch of stuff that we
Oh
didn't
my
talk
gosh!
about.
And
But
we could talk about some of
There's
that
so
stuff
many tangents. I mean,
Yeah.
they're mostly relevant, but it's a
Yeah.
lot, which explains 2 hours and 45 minutes worth of a movie.
Yeah,
You got to fit a lot of information in.
and
But-
still tons of pauses too. Tons of open
And
space.
if you haven't watched it, the director, apparently one of his goals was to be deliberate, so you really felt time passing. Like he was torturing us very much on purpose
yeah,
with how long everything went. We're
Mission
literally
accomplished.
I think this is all in real time because it's taking a long time to do all these things.
Sure.
yeah. The beginning scene, I was so surprised. They just kept pushing that fly scene longer and longer and longer.
Oh yeah.
And I was
The
so
point where I really started thinking about it, like logistically. Like, well, how are they doing this flight?
Yeah.
apparently they put jelly all over his face
Yeah, they did.
and
And released a bottle of
And
flies.
waited. Just filmed it until he got like just the right
Yeah.
amount of fly moments.
Which, when I read that, it made sense because he was doing this like, blowing on his lip thing, and the fly was stuck.
Yeah.
Like, no reaction.
not
And I
move.
was like, oh yeah, he was basically glued to his face.
Oh, it's so gross.
Yeah.
But then later, when it's actually on the side, there's clearly like a little
A
fly.
fake fly.
taped
Yeah,
to
that
a
fly was
string or
not
something.
alive.
No,
And it's just like, zzz. But I thought,
Yeah.
like, as crazy as this scene is, like, I was very impressed
Me
with how
too.
they
Me too.
got it to happen.
Things to be impressed by.
Well, especially for a
minutes of a
movie
fly.
that he didn't want to make, like he was done. There was not going to be another spaghetti western, and
Yeah. But he'd still like.
the way he
every
pulled
scene.
off the one that was not part of his plan, the story, the beautiful movie, as
Yeah.
much as parts of it I disliked.
Oh,
I almost would agree that
the best
it
of
is the
his-
best spaghetti
Mm.
western. Once
is
it
gorgeous.
got going, I was in it.
It's. I almost wish he didn't use the American scenes because it felt to the Searchers. Like, because he only uses that
Oh, and
scene
it's
one
referencing the
time,
Searchers, for sure.
which totally, yeah, which makes sense because that's like, but the only time they use it is for them traveling from the train station to Sweetwater, and that was like the only time you see the American background. That's the only time, and the rest of the time they're in Spain or Italy. So but as soon as I saw it, I'm like, wait, when did the Searchers come out? I gotta figure out this. I assume just before this, right?
Earlier.
Yeah. So that was my only okay, I get it. You're in America. You're showing that you're in America just to have the budget. but the other stuff was still so Sergio Leone. Like I loved the close-ups of those first bad guys. Like just so good.
Well, yeah, the language of the Western, I think, as we have it now in pop culture, like evolved. And you guys maybe talked about this. Not that I didn't listen to your podcast about Good, Bad, and
What?
Ugly, but you know, I don't listen from not in it.
Why would you do that?
The language, between like a John Ford Western and like a Sergio Leone Western is pretty different, right? Like
very.
John Ford's like vast, big sky country, and we're like little people in a way inside that that piece. And then Sergio is like
so close to everyone.
Character.
Yeah.
And it's so much the cowboy shot, as it's called, is like a Sergio Leone thing in a lot of ways to me, more than
for focusing more on the conversations than they are the scenery for the most part.
And just how like dramatic, entering into a scene is, the blocking, it's, contrasting giant faces and little silhouettes.
Yes.
And
I would say Sergio, he still does the wide shots. That's the thing about it. He
right.
It's just the drastic, super close up, because John Ford would be more like that medium close of like of a John Wayne, while Sergio Leone's like, I'm in your face and you can feel the fly or the drips onto my hat.
Well, and isn't the part shortly after Harmonica is rescued by Cheyenne? There's this part where it's so close at him that it looks like he's looking right into the camera. Like I was staring at it for a minute going, is he looking at the camera? Like, is he like in on something with us?
Oh, yeah.
Or is he just looking really close to the lens? I couldn't tell. I was like, either way, it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
There's a lot of staring down the barrel of the camera.
Very intimate.
This. Oh, I mean, it comes at the beginning, just when you see Henry Fonda's eyes right at the beginning, which was apparently how he pitched Henry Fonda the movie. Was like, imagine you see this guy murder like a little kid, and you pull up and you reveal it's Henry Fonda.
Yeah.
And like, Henry Fonda's like, yeah, cool.
I'm down.
I like how he took it one step further too, and Henry Fonda kind of showed up with like brown contact lenses, and he's like, no, we want your blue eyes showing. We want it even more insane that Henry Fonda is the one doing all of this. Like,
for the listener at home who may not be old like us, why is Henry Fonda being a bad guy such a big deal?
I think one other film he was ever in, of many, many films, he didn't play a heroic nice guy. And not only heroic nice guy, but heroic Western nice guy. Right. This is so imagine this would be, well, to me, it's like Denzel Washington in Training Day. Like, it's like, oh my goodness, he's a good bad guy. You hated Denzel in this. So I was trying to think of like a comparison, because Henry Fonda I've seen, and I'm like, oh yeah, the campy Western actor. So for Henry Fonda, this is my, I assume he wanted to get an Oscar out of this bad boy. I'm sure it occurred to him when he took it. This is Leo wrestling the bear and eating the raw fish. You know what I mean? Like, this is Leonardo DiCaprio. Like, I will do whatever it takes to get a nomination. Yeah. Or Jim Carrey doing Eternal Sunshine. Yeah. Like, all of a sudden you're like, what? Yeah. And, I was not expecting this. No. Yeah. So I thought that was great. Yeah. So the other thing thinking about the intros and all the different people, I loved like the introducing each like person too. Like, I think what Sergio Leone does well is he uses no words, 0 words, but he just still introduces the character of each of these people. Like, it's, and the same was true of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I'm like, because I watched the first time in Italian, and I didn't know for the first 15 minutes. I was like, oh, I'm on the wrong like language setting, and I love that. Like, it doesn't matter until like later. Well, until the plot gets real complicated. Like, well, and then when they do use the words, the script is impactful. I mean, everything that is said, it's either like, this is a great one-liner, or This really says so much about this character just in that short
Lot of
sentence.
snark.
So snarky. I loved the snark. That's probably what brought the movie around for me.
There we go.
As I
When they started
going,
talking
I'm
more.
like, oh, I'm writing that down. That was really good. That was funny.
Yeah.
Cheyenne, you really liked him. Also, the fact that I don't think I'd ever seen Jason Robards in anything other than being a grandparent in the movie Parenthood. I was like, that's the Jason Robards I know. And then seeing him as Cheyenne, it's like, he's great at this. And I know he was in other movies.
Manny, I think he's in The Firm or something, right? But it's just like older guy. And then, he's got this pretty great, weird Western beard, and he's crazy tan.
Yeah.
And you're like,
crazy.
Oh,
not as crazy
You're a
tan as
fun
Charles
guy.
Bronson, who apparently used sunscreen on his chapstick. I felt he was so dark, and his lips were not very dark.
It did feel like
I had some
spray tan going on there.
I
or
had
something.
a few issues.
Yeah, I was like,
I got that the leather skin look was there, but his lips didn't match the face.
no,
for me.
spray tan.
Also,
didn't
would
work.
I was a little confused why his name was Cheyenne. Maybe he's from Wyoming, but his name, he's a Hispanic name, his character, which you never hear. And that's a little not ideal that Jason Robards is playing a Mexican.
Yeah.
But when he was just called Cheyenne in the movie, it never seemed to come up, which I think was intentional too. They're like, he doesn't actually come across as Mexican, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Manuel Gutierrez.
Yeah, because then you're like, oh, is this brown face? You know? Like, or is he just tan?
Yeah. Well, he's never as tan as Harmonica, so maybe that helped him.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I really wanted the black actor who started the movie to continue through the movie because he just looks so interesting.
Oh, he's great.
I'm like,
oh, yeah.
You just like, you would be a great character in any, and then, you're gone. You're gone.
I felt like Sergio Leone, who, remember, worked on The Bicycle Thieves.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Cast
Good
fact.
comeback there, huh?
Very similarly in that all his characters, and I guess in this movie, like, there were more famous ones, like Henry Fonda and Charles Bronson.
Yes.
But, like, he casts so visually in that these are caricatures of people. And that's why it was so interesting, those first three guys. You're like, these guys have these interesting backstories, and who are they? And, they don't have to say anything.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, that's interesting. But that almost everybody had it. I did eventually, the goons I got lost in like, well, which goon is this? I can't quite remember if you're a good goon or a bad goon.
Sure. You found out at what point they die. You're kind of like, oh, well, that took care of that.
Oh, I forgot. Were those first three guys Cheyenne's men?
No.
No,
they
they
were
were
Frank's
pretending to be. No. Yeah, they're Frank's men.
Pretending to be Cheyenne's men.
And then later or earlier, I forget now.
Okay.
People are pretending to be Cheyenne's men.
Got
at
it.
some point.
Well, and why were they waiting for
was Frank.
Harmonica in the beginning?
Harmonica had written Frank to be like, meet me, I'm coming.
Oh,
and
right.
Frank's like, I don't know who this guy is.
Right.
So, yeah, sure, I'll meet you. And then he sent his dudes to take care of him.
Got it.
Because he had no idea who it was, right? It was like an anonymous.
Yeah. I do love the first meeting between the two of them. And he's like, who are you? And he just starts listing off people he's killed.
Yeah,
it's
dead
so
people.
He's like, no, that guy's dead. Well, you would know. You killed him.
It weirded me out a little bit. And this, like, because the whole movie's dubbed, the diegetic harmonica in movie weirded me out.
Don't get me started
I was like,
about this.
is this the soundtrack?
Yes.
Is it not the soundtrack?
This is so here's my problem with it. So much effect on the harmonica that doesn't sound like it's in the real room. And I love and this is the bummer part because I actually like the soundscape of the whole movie. The whole movie in general, I really enjoyed. Like the composer, he's great. He's just amazing. It's the same guy from Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, right? The guy who did like literally. When you think about Western, you think about this composer. But that harmonica to me did not sound like it was part of the freaking scene. It felt like it was like on some background, whatever. And I was like, wait, oh, that's supposed to be from him. Oh, he's supposed to be making those sounds. And it's like, it's moving at the wrong time. His mouth moving.
Yeah,
With
I don't buy that he learned harmonica for this part at all.
And it was just, and even the sound felt like it was being too, like, I don't know. Anyway, so that
was like in a studio.
That was obnoxious to me as well. A lot of people like it, but I was annoyed by it the whole time because it just took me out of like, okay, that's not, obviously he's not playing harmonica right now.
I liked the idea of it.
Yes. Oh.
The implementation, you were like, wait, what is, and because especially in that first scene, he does kind of score the film initially with the sound of like the, creaking windmill and,
yes,
that was all diegetic. But then you hear that harmonica the first time and they'll turn around and I thought like, oh, they heard something. But it was like, no, they apparently heard the harmonica.
Yeah.
But I was like, but that did not sound like in-world harmonica.
Yeah.
It sounded like soundtrack harmonica.
That's what that was?
That kept throwing me off.
Yeah. Apparently, they did film a lot of this with the soundtrack playing in the background. Isn't that? Did you hear that? Isn't that crazy? Can you imagine that?
He wrote the score
before
ahead of the movie.
Before the movie. Isn't that nuts?
And so, yeah, he'd play it on set to time scenes to it, which is why a lot of it does feel very timed to the score.
True. Yeah.
But
it's literally a dance.
But what a doozy for the actors to like. Maybe it felt really helpful, and maybe it was just weird.
I've been sweet, hitting those beats.
But
maybe
like,
motivational. Like this is the feeling you should have.
Oh, you feel badass.
Yeah.
Think about that. Instead of being this dark void of nothingness, you
except for the sex scene part.
You got the
the romancy stuff. Like that probably felt
okay,
like the
Fonda.
creepiest. The creepiest
Fonda's
situation
like, hey,
ever.
this just feels like another Thursday night. All right, let's get this started.
Fun fact, Henry Fonda's wife made sure she was there for those scenes.
Yeah, I don't blame her for that.
That was great.
Yeah. Like, I think I'm going to show up. This is out of character. Yeah, this is not normal.
No, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
She's like, I'm going to go ahead and be there for that.
Yeah,
Thanks.
for this gorgeous actress
like,
who's like famous for being beautiful.
First intimate scene, you're pretty rapey, like
super rapey.
Husband,
Yeah.
I will come
Super
to
rapey.
Yeah.
make everyone more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Our marriage may never be the same after this.
No.
I'll be there for it.
Speaking of uncomfortableness, do you guys read about what our good old director had in store for this actress when she first was seen?
Yeah, I'm of course forgetting a detail. Oh, it's like when she got off the train.
Yeah, it was.
That's pretty messed up. So apparently, Sergio Leone wanted to actually shoot up her dress to reveal that she was not wearing underwear to show what kind of woman she was.
That might have changed the rating a little bit.
And so thankfully, the actress is like, I didn't sign up for that.
No.
We ain't doing that. And so that got cut, thankfully. How dumb.
That sex scene was the first scene she did with Henry Fonda in the movie. I don't know if it was the first scene she did in the whole movie or if it was just the first one with him. And it's like, hey, we're going to get you guys together right now.
Oh, that like relationship of actors having like, hi, nice to meet you. Time to do a sex scene.
Yeah, I'm completely Italian and I've never.
Let's do this.
And you're a very famous American actor. And
every now and again when we do these movies, I'm reminded like, oh yeah, like times were different with how people were okay with this stuff.
Yeah, definitely not okay.
Where even like, there's a version where it's like, okay, it's period accurate, I guess, how they're dealing with this woman, but it also feels like 60s accurate.
Oh, for
or
sure.
Something.
Oh, for sure.
Where it's like people are okay with this, but man, like the lines about who won that whole scene, and it's like I don't know what anyone's motivations are here. I'm very confused by all this. But then when Cheyenne pretty late in the movie is like, go give the water to these workers, and if they pat you on the butt, like just pretend it didn't happen.
It's okay. You're the boss here.
It's like great for them or something.
It's good for the town.
Boost morale.
Boost morale for the town.
Yeah, and then like he did it.
It's
at
just
the
your
end.
body.
Like, you're like, what is happening? Don't.
Oh.
And And then she's like, "Yeah, you're right."
Which is such
but
a
also,
missed
like,
opportunity for a woman who's like instantly widowed, gets this whole like
such a good-
property,
Yep.
and
She's like an empowered woman.
yeah,
now. Yeah.
she
Yeah.
sure could be.
She's the lead
but
of the
no, you give them water and let them spank you
I am glad I
because
didn't.
it'll make them feel good.
I'm glad I didn't see any
Well, what-
spanking in the final scene, by the way, because the final scene wasn't
What-
actually that bad.
No,
No, I mean, one of their first interactions was like, "I mean, I could rape you," or no,
Yes.
I guess he implied that, and she's like, "Do whatever you want, and bring in all your crew too."
Yes.
Yeah.
It wouldn't bother
Yeah, I
me at all,
forgot
and
about
you're
that.
like,
Oh my
let's make this a
Why are you
gangbang.
Yeah. Holy
bringing that
cow.
Maybe don't put those ideas in his head.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You don't know what this guy's
It
about.
certainly says a lot about her mental state, being I'm going
Yeah.
to shut off my brain because I'm in prostitute mode again.
You know, which does help us with the Henry Fonda the sex scene too.
That's
kind of
how I
'Cause it's-
explained
you
it. I
assume
didn't
it's just
think
like,
they were in cahoots.
turn
I
off.
thought she was just going to a different place
Yeah.
while she was thinking about what to do next.
Because we didn't know enough detail about the plot by then.
Right.
It felt like this could be some double cross.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, totally. At that
I
point.
hired you to kill my husband so
Yeah.
we could have the property together or something, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
and especially when it's like she seemed like she was enjoying it. I'm like, oh, geez. The whole thing was she was there to double cross him the whole time. But then
that's
it's
why
like,
she's a
But
good
then he's
prostitute.
thinking out loud
Yeah.
about what to do. Like, I could marry you and then it would be my land anyway. But that just seems like it'd take too long.
But I'm
We
not
should
gonna
do
be
this
good at
quick.
that.
oh,
Which-
talking dirty
it
in the
was
bedroom
very-
again.
I was very like, what does he mean? And then we cut to the auction scene. I'm like, oh, an auction. Okay.
Okay.
Well, and then
Quick
she
version
really
of
has
this.
like dead eyes and like completely
Oh, yeah.
defeated. And
Yeah.
I just want to sell.
But see, but even then I was still not sure. I'm like, maybe it's an act. And now she's still in cahoots with him. And then,
Yeah, I
but
think
then
she was a bit
yeah.
broken. I think the prostitute
there's
was
a
a
lot-
little broken.
It's a very confusing situation. I mean, you're just a good old prostitute trying to marry into a family of 6. And there you go.
Yeah. Well, she thought she was getting off the train to a family of gingers.
I know.
And they were gone.
Gone.
And that even was like, he knew he was rich, but then the dad was like, soon we're going to be in the finest clothes. And I thought, is she rich? I was very,
Yeah.
I mean,
so
it was just so confusing at the beginning. Like, what is happening? And then even
That
the
makes
line
sense
about
now.
like, you're going to go get your mother, and the older ginger's
mother
like,
died
my
6
mom's been
years
dead for 6 years. And he slaps him or whatever. And I was like,
Stabs him like
Is
a
that
redheaded
your mother?
stepchild.
Yeah.
so confused.
Yeah, I was
about
confused.
the
I was like, wait,
characters.
has he been hiding their mother for this whole time?
Yeah,
Turns
like,
out she
why
wasn't
did
dead.
she run off?
We're going to go pick her up in a little bit.
Yeah, right. You know, and it was like, oh no, this is a different
No,
woman.
still dead.
It was just
Still dead.
so.
Well, and then come to
confusing.
find out they'd already been married a month before. And it's like, well, how long is he hanging out in New Orleans to like meet this lady, marry her, make all these plans for her to come out a month later? I didn't. There's
It's pretty
confusion.
bizarre.
Yeah. Very bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
So this big budget doesn't mean better. Because the nice thing about the old spaghetti westerns is they were not big budget other than paying Clint Eastwood in Lamborghinis.
But I think that the studio wanted him to make another one. So
Yeah.
it was, we're bringing in Henry Fonda for this.
Yeah.
And that's where the budget, I mean, half the budget was on the actors.
For sure.
Spent on
And to
getting those guys
It's-
in there.
Are you surprised that Clint Eastwood said no? Or do you think it was because he made
From what,
3?
from what I understand, he was like, I'm done working with him. Like,
Yeah.
he was like, no, we're
Well,
finished.
not because he didn't like him. I think it was like, I need to get out of Western. I
Yeah.
think there was
Yeah.
like, I need to
Moving
not
on.
be associated only with Western.
Yeah. Well, and Henry Fonda had to be talked into it. And luckily, he had a very good friend, Eli Wallach, who had already worked
Yeah,
with
good old Eli
Sergio.
Wallach.
And he said, you should do this and you'll have the time of your life. And he did.
Oh, do you
Paid
get?
off.
I'm back.
Yeah, one of his favorite movies of all time that he did, I think. He
Mhm.
said.
Which movie?
This one.
Oh, this
Henry Fonda said this movie.
Really? Henry Fonda still says this is his favorite. Well,
Yeah, very proud of this.
I mean, it probably is because it's so different than anything he's ever done. I'm sure Denzel says the same thing about Training Day. So
perhaps
some weird facts.
I have a number fact.
You guys have number facts
because I'm the number girl.
I've got a few other randos.
Body count.
Oh,
29.
Okay. Yeah.
29 people died.
Not hard boiled, but pretty good.
Not quite.
No. Pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean,
decent amount.
Quite a bit of death.
And they were rather slow deaths at times. They weren't like
and children.
Oh my gosh.
Right out of the gate.
Right out of the gate.
Yeah,
See,
the
hard
whole
boiled.
eye contact piece was whew.
Oh, look
it
at
really does freak you out though. I mean, I get that Henry Fonda was probably like, wow, you're right. This me looking down this child and then
shooting
him.
You shouldn't have said my name.
Yeah. What are we gonna do about? Well, now that you said.
Wow. Oh,
Do you think that guy felt bad?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have said Frank because that little boy's dead.
Oh dang
Yeah,
it!
Dang
it.
Really stuck my foot in that one.
I've been like, but that's not your real name, right, buddy? Yeah.
Before we get into fun facts, should I give my animatory
animators outtake by Pat.
Beep boop bop boop.
Whatever we're calling it. So to me, the two, maybe I'll frame these always kind of with the 12 principles. Like the two principles that this movie nailed were anticipation, which you get from the deliberate pace. So in animation, anticipation is usually like, I'm setting up an action because I'm going to run off screen. But in this movie, the anticipation is just like, we're going to unsettle you by being so slow about what could be happening that you're going to be like, something's got to happen pretty soon. And that's the whole movie is just slow it down.
Yeah. Well, and also comparing it to The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly and those movies, they're so much more fast-paced. I mean, not fast-paced, but...
No, but they're...
It's very different. He went so far deliberately slowing this down that you're like, I'm going to stop watching this. Do something.
I think there is something pretty impactful about stretching out the moments between the high violence that makes it jarring and puts you on the edge of your seat. It's just hard to carry that through an entire movie. I think there's modern movies like No Country for Old Men is a good example of
good.
This kind of pacing.
That's great.
Really makes you feel it. Yeah.
I think there's maybe just more characterization or something about that movie speeds it up in a way where you're like, I'm not bored. I'm just like, whoa, this is intense.
He's just so shockingly violent and nonchalant about it. Yeah.
Murder something again. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other one.
It was different. It was different when he played the Ariel's dad. It wasn't quite the same.
A little different.
Yeah, a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Triton.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Different hair. Different hair.
Sorry. Animation. I figure I connect that.
So yeah. So we have anticipation and then staging / composition. Man, the compositions in this movie are great.
Amazing.
Top notch.
I think if I'm rating Westerns by beauty, I still go to the Searchers in terms of color.
Yeah.
It's so gorgeous, but man, the compositions are so strong.
Yep.
And the foundation of film and it's certainly animation is storyboards, which I believe Sergio Leone is a big fan of storyboarding. The framing of and the scale differentiation between guys coming in so close to screen and guys way in the background, it's so great. In ways of also leading into the anticipation of what's to come.
Yes.
Where you're like, okay, all these characters are set up. There's collision about to happen.
Yes.
So good. I think those two things to me, this movie is a master at, and you could argue we went way overboard on the anticipation because sometimes you forget. What are we waiting for anymore? Why is this still happening?
I think a train is what we're waiting for.
Yeah, it's like, oh, right. That's why these guys are here. We're not waiting to find out what happens to a fly. We're
Right.
supposed to be waiting for a train,
Yeah.
but I got lost. So, anyway, that's the end of my let's relate this.
That's
to
pretty good.
animation.
So you said there's 12 principles of animation. Can you reel those off real quick? Yeah, buddy. This is a test for school. Here you go.
Oh, I don't like this at all.
You
We
brought
got
it up, buddy.
Straight ahead or pose to pose. We got overlapping action. And secondary action, staging, squash and stretch. Someone keeping count for me?
I have
forgetting
not.
all that.
I stopped counting. I didn't start. I'll be honest.
Squat and stretch? Is that what he said?
Squash.
He made that up.
Squash and stretch. Timing. Arcs.
Arcs. Lots of arcs.
And that's enough.
Noah is really good at this one.
Yeah.
That's enough of that.
That's pretty good.
I
Pretty
like
good.
it.
Move
Okay.
on.
For those at home, you can judge him for not getting all 12 because I counted. I just didn't want to tell him.
I honestly have no idea.
Oh,
Not 12.
Oh no!
Humiliations galore.
Let's talk about our favorite scenes because this is something I really like, or I don't know if it's favorite scenes, but I really enjoyed they had shots that felt like The Searchers, where it was like through the house, silhouettes of people.
Oh yes, the framing at the beginning scene actually when they came to the train
it's
station.
so
Yes.
good, and
Yes.
that it felt like either The Searchers or Ozu. Like it felt like something where it's just perfectly like symmetrical. Like it could, if it was little funky colors, it'd be Wes Anderson. It was just this very appeasing thing. And then, oh yeah, super zoom on this super interesting face again. And then, so it's just this great, going with the super tight with those gorgeously framed shots is so just pleasing and stimulating just for you. Like, oh, what's next? Like it doesn't give you, because usually it's like a medium shot and you're like not as tension, but something about going from that gorgeously choreographed or framed shot to this incredibly close shot where you cannot help. And they're looking down the barrel. Not only is it like close shot, but they're looking down the barrel at you. It's very unnerving, but still.
Yes.
Yeah. It's great. Sorry. That's all. That was one thing that's where the 20 minutes of the opening, hour and a half of an opening shot.
You should shoot your next wedding like this set.
I actually have tried
crazy silhouette and then insane close-up. I'm sure all the brides
the
will be super happy to
the problem is like
be this tight.
what makes it great is that
Flies at them.
yeah.
You want to see the snot dripping as they're crying
Exactly
during
right.
their vows.
Or to
Yeah.
get
Can I rub a little jelly on your face?
the drips into your hat that you drink later. Something like that. Like that would be amazing. But I have done like the scene and then the face, but I don't like to show the people that early because I like to wait for the reveal for the bride till later. But
that's your anticipation.
That's my anticipation, right? But
we know it's coming.
You know it's coming, but you still like, oh, so the longer, I think my more intriguing films are the longer I wait to reveal the bride, the better. Or because some of them might just go right away, like Sergio Leone, and just show them right away. But the reveal is the anticipation. Anyways, but this one is just always, it's always crazy because his first reveals are people that don't matter. So every time I feel like I'm being lied to with Sergio Leone.
Actually, I read something where he hoped, I think, that Eli Wallach and Clint Eastwood would play those first couple of those first three bad guys.
Whoa, that'd be so
but
cool.
Scheduling didn't work out.
That
would
be
have been
cameo.
Amazing cameo. Oh, did you guys read the sad news about
Ye-
Oh, you got it. You take it.
Knuckles.
You take it. Knuckles.
Oh yeah.
You heard that too, Pat?
Of those three gunmen.
Oh yeah.
Snake, Stony was the first guy with the fly on his face. Yes. Snaky was the guy that drank the water from his hat.
Nice.
Knuckles is the guy that's cracked his knuckles the whole time.
That
Knuckles.
actually grossed me out.
Al Moloch.
Al Moloch. Yeah.
Killed himself after a day of shooting, jumping from the
jumped
top
out
of
the
the
window.
hotel balcony.
Yeah.
And as they're driving him to the hospital, Leone is like, get his costume.
You know,
sad.
He's not the most like caring
Sensitive.
about people. Yeah. When it comes to directors,
I
this
think
guy,
artistic geniuses tend to be kind of not super great people.
not great people.
No.
Here's looking at you, Hitchcock.
Weirdly,
Salvador
they're
Dali.
good at
You know,
good at manipulating emotion, not good at understanding
Yeah.
or showing emotion.
feeling
maybe?
real ones. Yeah, that's the sad
can't
fact. We
feel
might as well get that one
feelings.
out of the way.
Yeah, that was a sad one. And it's crazy. And he's the same guy that opened The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah, he was.
He's the
he
first-
had like a one-armed bounty hunter.
Yeah, he's
That's
the one
he
who
was.
dies first thing in the like.
Shit.
That is
I think
ironically
he
enough.
was in all 3 of the dollars.
Oh, was he in all 3 of the dollar
Maybe.
fistful of dollars ones? Oh, that's great. The dollar trilogy.
Maybe.
Yeah, that was a sad one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just gotta say, this ending though, I like this ending so much better than The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Well, you didn't get nauseous.
Did it get nauseous?
That
It went
helps.
spinning around, and so Pat, you should just watch the ending.
It's more like
To
Shane,
make yourself
which
sick.
apparently was a reference.
Oh, good
To
one,
this.
Pat.
Actually, speaking of the ending, what awesome like choreography.
Yes.
She coming out, the train coming
Yes.
through, we pull up and we see harmonica taking, like, holy cow, that was like a big deal.
All
like,
the
to get
people.
all that
Oh
stuff figured
my
out.
goodness. There's a lot going on. I remember literally going, holy extras, Batman. Like there's just people everywhere. And I'm like, you couldn't have done this in the US. Well, maybe you could have back then, but you couldn't do it now for very cheap. You probably would have animated half those guys.
Yeah. Also, like, how many times did you think that people were going to die as the train was coming through? And they're like very slowly sauntering off the tracks as they're like also still pounding them in. I thought, what is happening?
Yeah.
I'm very nervous for all these people. And I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure I saw a stuntman die. One of the bad guys who I think he was the guy who was behind the painted clock. There's a lot of clock
Yes.
themes in this.
I forgot to look at it up, but when I saw that, I'm like, ow, that's not fake.
It felt like he landed on his neck as he like hit the ground.
Yes.
Eventually, he like fell off the roof, went through the secondary awning, and then his basically neck folded over. And I thought that guy probably died with this. I don't know how.
I don't think so.
He did it.
They would definitely bring it up if he did. But yeah, I thought the same thing though. Yeah.
Yeah, I was very impressed with that stunt, and I thought, good Lord, I hope that guy got extra money for that fall, because holy cats.
For real, that
That's
looks
crazy.
so bad. Oh no, I'm gonna send.
We to fun facts? Are we in the fun facts?
I think we started. Yeah,
Oh,
we
yeah.
kind of like it slipped into our DMs.
I have
Like,
a
it's
couple of
already-
like
yeah.
potential could have been casting fun facts.
Oh, that's fun.
I'm into that.
Originally, Sophia Loren was the one that he wanted to play Jill,
Yeah.
but he was afraid that she was going to be a little too controlling of how the movie was going to go.
That's funny.
And kind of decided not to at the last second.
She probably would have been okay with the nude scenes though. That's the difference.
Sure,
there.
probably. Also, Kirk Douglas desperately wanted to play Cheyenne in this and didn't get to.
Yeah.
That's
big
so
Sergio
funny.
Leone fan, apparently.
And he
Yeah.
said no.
He turned him down. I
Sergio
guess.
Leone's.
Clint Eastwood turned him down, and he turned
Wow.
Kirk Douglas down.
That's funny.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, not sorry.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. That's a good one.
So,
Go for it.
well, as we talked about, Bicycle Thieves, Sergio Leone worked on that. On this one, Dario Argento worked on the story for this movie, and Dario Argento is known for more horror movies like Suspiria. I thought that was like a weird, like, what's that guy doing on this movie? But then you go, like, there's a lot of unsettling psychological stuff going on, like that Henry Fonda romance scene. So maybe that was Dario's input. But that was pretty interesting.
That's pretty great. That's a good one.
The other thing, we talked. Oh yeah, so there's sort of a conspiracy thing, which
Ooh.
I always like to see these. So after Cheyenne's dying, he's like, I don't want you to see me die, like, walk away. As Harmonica turns away, you see there's a hole basically right in the middle of Harmonica's back. Looks like a bullet hole. And so there's a theory that, like, was Harmonica dead this whole time? And he's like a ghost of vengeance, which is why, maybe he can't stay. Like, he's got to go away because he's been dead this whole movie. Because, like, why is there a hole
It's like the
right
crow.
in the middle of his jacket?
It's the crow.
Yeah, it's exactly like a crow. Which I don't think that was intended at all, but it's a funny little, like,
that's great.
Fan,
weird,
the fan
bizarre
theory.
hole right in the middle of his jacket.
Ooh.
That surely was intentional by somebody. So people do think maybe Harmonica was dead the whole time.
That's
which would
so
kind of
good.
He got shot right at the beginning and he survived, just a flesh wound, I guess. You could buy it. Like, he just was never scared seemingly of dying ever.
Yeah.
To the point where he's acting pretty cavalier the whole time.
Yeah.
But I think that was just,
Yeah, that's
Bronson.
good. That's pretty good.
Bronson-esque.
That's pretty great, though.
Machismo.
Yeah.
Shows
Here's a good one. John Carpenter, who was a huge fan of Sergio and the movie, played Jill's theme of the musical score in his wedding as they walked down the aisle.
Yes! I did hear that.
Oh, that's funny.
And then Ennio scored The Thing, which is a great movie score. So the same composer from this movie did The Thing. And those are very different movies.
Oh,
Man, like, really great. The other thing that I was researching before we started recording was, like, I have heard, like, the dual song before. And I was like, some other movie show used this theme.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, was it Quentin Tarantino?
Right.
Was it Robert Rodriguez? I can't find it anywhere.
Tell me
Quentin
it's Star
Tarantino
Trek.
certainly has used Ennio music before. I couldn't figure it out. I'm still like, listeners, you could research this and hit us up in the comments.
Is
the
it
thing.
when
I cannot find
Kirk
this song? Like,
fights? Oh, I can't think. Korg in the desert? No.
where the coffee cup is
Yeah.
still showing there?
Yeah.
Could be. But, like, that very iconic, like, electric guitar riff as, like, harmonica goes in a shot. Like, I'm like, I've heard this score
I bet it's like a cartoon or something.
before.
I bet it's like every...
But I don't know where.
That's funny.
It's a Wile E. Coyote.
It drove me crazy. I don't know where it's from, but I'm sure it's from something because his music, much like Sergio's visuals, are so synonymous with Westerns, whistling or the harmonica. Like, it's just, man, I know this in my being, and I can't remember where I heard it first because it was not this movie.
Yeah.
Well, and it's not as prolific, of course, as The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Because that one is like...
Oh, yeah. From the beginning, too.
Oh,
You're like,
just crazy.
this is,
like, oh, my gosh. Because like, that was what surprised me about Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. It's like, oh, my gosh, this is from this movie?
Or Magnificent Seven.
Yeah.
You're like, oh.
I can't believe
that's
this.
That's why everybody plays
like,
this.
It was, so this, I assume I assume it's just like some throwaway cartoon scene in some movie.
Sure.
Somewhere, I don't know.
You know the way...
But I think that was the other thing, and I don't know how true it was for movies up into this point. I guess probably fairly common was just that every character had their own theme.
So good.
Really
love that.
It's
side
awesome.
note, why don't we have our own themes when we come on the show? We definitely need to play ourselves in.
Our walk-in music.
Yeah. That needs to happen.
Why?
Listeners,
Lack of talent to make them?
if you have some
Yeah.
composing
We have to
in
pay
your
for the
background,
rights.
and just give us the rights for free, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Write it, and we'll be good.
Yeah.
Oh,
super
actually, the last fun fact I have is that not all of our characters dubbed themselves in this movie,
Yes.
and
This
I
is true.
believe our
Jill?
lead actress
Jill had someone
was not
else.
even herself.
Yeah.
That's
That's nuts.
insane
Isn't that nuts?
to me.
Yeah. Agreed.
She couldn't even do the English version of herself.
Bonkers.
Man, the dubbing is pretty bad. There's some scenes where it's like that. I think Wobbles has a scene, and it's like
Yeah.
That's not what you said, Wobbles.
Yeah.
No way.
Well,
No way.
it's very obvious too which actors are Italian and which ones were American, because the Americans are at least mouthing the same words.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
you're like, that's not even close
Yeah,
to
for sure.
coming around to that.
It became a thing where I was sort of grading in my head, like, hey, that was really good dubbing. Like, great job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then other times, like, nope, nowhere close.
No.
And
I do have to say though that the voice, if you don't look at the mouth,
Yeah, sure. If you're not
The
looking at their face.
voice acting was quite good.
Mm-hmm.
Like the people they
Yeah.
picked for the voice acting was quite
they
good.
sound great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and the
I think
emotion
there was
they.
a husband-wife team that did a couple of the characters. Of course, I don't remember who they were, but
Oh,
I
it'd be
thought that was
so
interesting.
funny if it was Henry Fonda's wife doing that. That would be amazing.
No, I don't think it was.
It would be, but that's
But
for
it's
sure
definitely
not.
not.
who it
Yeah,
was.
definitely not true.
The other.
I do recall Harmonica's brother was just a member of the crew,
Yes.
Oh, that's
basically.
great.
Yeah, and you can see him like mouthing "you son of a bitch" or something.
Son of a bitch. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, another interesting thing: United Artists was the ones that were originally wanting to fund this film,
Oh, interesting.
but the leading men they had in mind
Oh.
were dismissed. One of them was Kirk Douglas,
There we go.
also Charlton Heston
Oh, what was he gonna play?
and Greg. These are all for.
Was he gonna play the bad guy, or would he play?
Monica.
He would have played harmonica. How old was he back then?
I don't know.
Huh.
And Gregory Peck.
I don't-
I don't know if they
And
were all up for
Gregory
harmonica,
Peck.
but these were like
Gregory
the big
Peck.
names that they were throwing out there. So instead, because he didn't like any of those casting ideas, it went to Paramount.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Could have been a United Artists.
That's
Oh,
crazy.
last one it's fun, but it's not like as big a deal. The Native American woman who kind of runs away from the first station you
Mhm.
see was Woody Strode's wife. Woody Strode was the hat drinking
Yeah.
actor.
Yeah. I
Oh.
saw that. That was cool.
That's kind of cool. Yeah. Great.
There you go.
There we go. Okay, guys. So you guys have watched way more westerns than I have. So when it comes to your Western Mount Rushmore, shall I say? Let's do Mount Rushmore. A lot of people do the Mount Rushmore, right? Westerns, although a very fun genre, it's hard to pick a best Western. I've come to find out. Because there's a lot of okay Westerns. There's a lot of okay Westerns. There's a lot of...
Most best westerns aren't that. I'm just saying.
I think
mean-
best and most fun are very different when
Very
you're talking
different.
about Westerns.
And the
So
fact
there's
that
bit.
when you think of the word best and Western together, you think of a mediocre hotel. Not a good thing.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah.
not a good
Not
thing.
ideal.
No.
That's where my brain went.
Yeah. So I get it. Best Western is not the best, thing to go for. However, does this rank in your Mount Everest of Westerns?
I think parts of it do. Honestly, because I really do want to just pick parts of this. Like some of the lines are amazing. Some of the shots are amazing. Some of it is excruciating for me to get through.
Yeah.
But I would say it redeems itself for sure, and does those parts that are great, I felt like are part of the best, the best Western for me. One of them.
Yeah.
The Searchers, of course, is one of them also, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't think as a whole movie I do put it necessarily on my best Western list, which I would have a tough time saying right now. But
Could you guys make it? Yeah, I'd be interested if you do. Mount
no,
Rushmore.
that'd be tough.
Okay.
I mean, like Magnificent Seven, or honestly, like for me, like for fun, I think Desperado I always really liked.
Oh yeah,
Um,
for sure.
Searchers
Young
is
Guns.
great. Young Guns, The Quick and the Dead. There's a lot of really fun.
I would say
Very fun.
Tombstone.
Oh yeah,
Tombstone.
For me is the best.
Unfortunately for our generation, we'd all have it on our Mount Rushmore.
It's got
yeah.
me.
Not unfortunately, a Daisy if you do, man.
Yeah.
The only
and
problem
on
is
your
the lead
Huckleberry.
The only problem is the lead actress. She is the worst. But other than that, it's a great movie.
Unforgiven is also a pretty good
It's pretty
contemporary.
Unforgiven.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, yes. So to me, it wouldn't. But man, the language of the Western this movie nailed and or created in a lot of ways. And so
For sure.
it's hard to like ignore it.
Yeah.
And the score is so good.
Yeah.
It's just
Butch Cassidy and the
freaking
Sundance Kid.
slow.
Probably my
Which
favorite
is
fun
kind of
Western.
like quasi-Western.
Sure, but it's on a list.
It's
Yeah.
And then it's like getting to that same thing. It's like, is this a Christmas movie because there's Christmas in the background? Is this a Western because he's wearing the hat?
It's hard for me to think of it as a Western when Raindrops Keep Falling on Your Head is played anywhere in the movie.
Bicycles came out around that time. It was a popular.
I know.
It was a cool thing.
I'm not gonna lie,
such a
bicycles is
silly-
definitely.
It was like getting a Tesla back then. Like, look at this new mode of transportation.
In a lot of ways. I love that movie.
That's
but
what I'm saying. It's fun.
Camelot.
It's a really
It's a
fun
silly place.
one. Yeah.
It's of a time
Let's not go there.
where you're like, oh, okay. This is how we made this movie.
Oh, I see
Great
what you
ending.
did there. Yeah, great ending.
Heck of an ending.
I
wouldn't put it on my Mount Rushmore, but
but man, it's
yeah,
top 10.
I mean, we're not
top 10.
snobby.
Top 10 here. Wow, not even top 10.
No, I'd have to do a little research into my own
Okay.
Western mix.
I am now. I'm looking at my list.
What do you think, Seth?
I think for me it would. I think with my age, of course, I throw Unforgiven. Actually, no, I would throw True Grit, either version. Probably the new version. And I would throw,
I like
I
the old
know
version
the old version's
better.
good too, but I really
No Country for Old Men. You could call
yeah,
Western.
and you could, but I'm not going to because that's yeah, but that wouldn't make my list. But then I would throw
310 to Yuma, the new one. Actually,
so good, love it.
That's
doesn't
a
make
good
my
one.
doesn't make
Blazing Saddles.
okay. If that's on the
Yeah.
list, that makes it. But that's a comedy, and that's next level.
It's a Western.
It's
a
the best.
Western.
It's the best Western ever made. Then,
Video Dances with Wolves.
Yeah.
Even.
yeah, that does
You
not. That's not even on my top 10.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I love Dances with Wolves.
I love the Avatar and Fern Gully too. What's the big deal?
Tatanka. Come on.
No,
Ooh.
this one replaces the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly for me. So this replaces Good, Bad, and the Ugly on that. And
It's
then,
my favorite Leone.
And then
of
I
the
would throw.
3 or
I'd
so
throw
that
the
I've seen.
Searchers on there. I'd throw an I'll Be Your Huckleberry on there because I love. It was so much fun. Tombstone was so much fun.
So good.
And so then the fourth slot, if we're going comedy, of course, yeah, I gotta go with Blazing Saddles. But that one doesn't, because it's making fun of the genre. I'd probably go with.
But it understood it enough. That it is the genre.
True.
That's what makes it so fun.
That's actually good. Actually, that's a legit top 4 if I have Blazing Saddles, Tombstone, The Searchers, and Once Upon a Time in the West. That's a pretty good Mount Rushmore right there, folks. I'm going to stick by that.
Good.
I'm going to stick by
I always
that.
forget how many presidents are on Mount Rushmore. It's not that many.
It's only 4. It's only 4, Pat.
It's only 4. That's a tough, tight list.
But
It's
also,
tough.
So this does not
Almost
make-
Heroes. That's for sure.
Wagons East is
I
my
mean-
preferred.
It's hard to pick between, but
Wagons East. Oh, it's a good one,
we
though.
could also get musical here and Paint Your Wagon.
Paint Your
Paint
Wagon.
Your Wagon.
That's so
Speaking
true.
of Clint,
Mm-hmm.
so snobby. But it may
Oh,
it might
100%.
not be on my Rushmore, but how snobby is this?
Oh, definitely top 100. Like, I still think it should be on the top 100 list of most snobby movies of all
It's
time.
pretty
for sure.
snobby. I mean, Sergio Leone is snobby and on his own, and so I feel like it bumping out Good, Bad, and the Ugly maybe for a better one.
So the question is, do you go
It's
with
certainly
early
way up there.
Sergio, then you go with Good, the Bad, and the Ugly? Because
They're
you got Clint
different.
Eastwood.
They're different tempos.
They are.
Same look, different tempo.
And both of them have been on the Sight and Sound top 100.
Mm-hmm.
They've both been on like the IMDb top 100. They've both been on the Rotten Tomatoes top. There's a lot of lists where both of them make the top 100. No problem.
I really want to see Duck You Sucker. Just because of the name and the fact that
Hey.
that's sandwiched in between that and Once Upon a Time in America. I'm like,
Right?
what?
It's pretty crazy.
Oh, by the way, I like
would
this way
assume.
better than Once Upon a Time in America. Just for the record. You think this one's rapey? That's way less bad than Once Upon a Time in America. America, oh, it's just cringy. There's so many awful things in Once Upon a Time in America. Sorry, I'm just going.
Well, we didn't watch that one.
No, we
Can't
didn't.
talk
But we
about
can't
it.
talk about it. Okay.
Is it crazy? Have you talked about this? Like how few things Sergio Leone actually directed?
That's true. He's almost Kubrick-esque.
On his IMDb, 9.
That's it?
Oh.
He did the 3, and then a couple others I can think of.
3 more
He did a
if
couple
you're
before
adding.
that.
Huh.
He did a couple like biblical-y guys, the Colossus of Rhodes and Sodom and Gomorrah.
Really?
Oh.
And then King of Ads, like
Interesting.
not a busy director per se,
No, what was his last film he did?
but he did work on Bicycle Thieves
Yes.
and Ben-Hur
He just didn't get top.
Right. So he
Directing.
definitely, yeah.
as the assistant director.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And he died at
But like
age...
that's crazy.
He died at age 60, though. He died young.
Yeah, he could have done.
Yeah.
Because that's like... I mean, what's
You're 60.
oh, almost 59,
Yeah.
60 next year.
Yeah.
But
Isn't
yeah,
it crazy? He did 4 westerns, really,
that's it.
but defined
Westerns.
modern western.
That's
visuals.
funny, and I think of him as a Western
And wanted to
director.
be done after 3.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's like,
that's so
That's
funny.
crazy.
for not feeling like this is my niche. I got to do this.
Right. And I guess I didn't realize this, but Once Upon a Time in America is his last film
Mm.
he ever made, right? Am I right?
Yeah,
on that
he
one?
did segments and some other thing.
Yeah, but he didn't actually. Yeah, so that is kind of crazy. So he is like this.
It's crazy.
He is like he puts it all in. Like it's all every time he makes a movie, he's all in, and he tries to make everything amazing.
Yeah.
It's not like that because on the other side you got John Ford making 1 million movies, and you got
Well, that's why I think I was associating like Western filmmakers with like being prolific. And it's
Yes.
like, no, Dario or Sergio did like very few things, but what he did was iconic.
yes,
And
incredibly.
this movie
incredible.
was the first one he did any filming in America. The
Yep.
first spaghetti western in America.
Which is why is it really spaghetti? But you know everyone thinks spaghetti is kind of American now, anyways in America. So
Well, yeah.
it's part of our diet.
Might even be a little offensive.
Mm-hmm.
A bit.
Well, that's the thing. Like the joke about American food. What is American food? It's just our take on other countries' food. Like,
It's that spaghetti your mom made today.
you ready for this fun fact, guys? Chinese food has been in America longer than spaghetti. Yeah,
That would make sense
it makes sense
historically.
Because who's working on the railroads? It wasn't those Italians, Pat.
Who is doing the laundry on the railroad?
Wasn't those Italians? So yeah,
I
no.
did see a couple of shots of people with a very long ponytail. I thought
You had to
"Ah,
eat after you were in the opium den.
That's
we
true.
maybe have a Chinese person running around.
You know, it's interesting. I was hoping because that first scene, you're like, oh, we actually have a man who's black, not just white and pretending to be Mexican. But then,
Yeah,
nope.
I actually really loved that. Like, just Woody Strode being there,
He was great.
and you're like, this guy looks amazing.
And you did not
And he
want him to
said nothing.
die because he had so much character
But
and
no, he gone.
Yes,
He gone.
he was gone too quick.
heck of a character actor. That's why I do love westerns, just for how amazing like character actor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what the requirements are, and I think every other movie we listed in the western genre is like,
Right.
man, there's so many good character actors in all those films.
And I also think maybe this one stands out so much as a great Western because of how out of character Henry Fonda's part was. I
So
think it was
good.
like maybe just his transition into being a bad guy for this film also made the movie stand out that way too. Like maybe if it had been Clint Eastwood who turned it down, it would have changed it would have just been like, oh, it's the same
Well,
as.
I think Clint Eastwood was meant to be harmonica.
Oh yes, that's right. But who else was up for? That's what I want to know is who else was up for Frank.
If only somebody researched this before we recorded.
Well, I have the list of the
Guys,
4 other guys that
I'm
were
not gonna
proposed, but
lie.
I don't remember which part
It's a
they
little
were
late in the
proposed for.
podcast to do some research right now.
Oh, we're done with the
We're done
research,
with
you
this.
guys.
All right. Well,
over.
then, so we've decided it's snobby, and so therefore do we
Must watch
recommend
Snobby.
people watch it?
Top 5 must watch westerns for Snobby.
Watch
Snobby.
Henry Fonda be a bad guy.
Yeah, no, that's great.
You should.
Yeah. I think
Maybe skip some of the beginning.
now the question is if you had to choose spaghetti gun to your head,
Mm-hmm.
Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, or this one, what would you go for?
I'd say they're equal, except one of them I would chop the front off, the other one I would chop the end off. Same level for me.
I think you have to watch a Clint Eastwood Sergio Leone movie. And so maybe you go that way, but I feel like these are two, like you just watch both.
I
don't
feel
care
that way about,
which dollar movie you watch, but
I feel like the same question would go for like, do you watch Seven Samurai or do you watch Magnificent Seven? They're both amazing movies. I wouldn't say one is better than the other.
Okay, you guys are both wusses. I'm going to give you the real answer. You watch.
Here we go.
I like Once Upon a Time in the West better, but you watch The Good, the Bad, the Ugly because that changed the game. That's the one that made Hollywood stars literally clamor to be in this movie.
Well, that's how we got Henry Fonda.
Yeah,
He
true.
did so well on the first
This is
3.
literally like Lock, Stock, and Smoking Barrel and Snatch. Like, yes, Snatch is amazing. Freaking love it. It's hilarious. But Lock, Stock, and Smoking Barrel is literally the movie that got Brad Pitt saying, I will do whatever you want me to do, Guy Ritchie.
Yeah.
So Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is the game-changing movie with nobody in it except for Clint Eastwood, who was washed out in America. Yeah. So is this as good as Once Upon? Is this better than Good, the Bad, and the Ugly? Probably. But the Good, and the Bad, and the Ugly is no holds barred. The budget was nothing, and it was amazing.
I say you have to watch both.
Yeah, watch both if you can. Sure. Be a wuss like Mariah and Pat.
But don't do it. Don't do it at night because you will fall asleep.
Just for the first half hour. After the first half hour, you are rolling, and it's just a great movie. You just can't start at bedtime.
I think once you kind of like figure out what the movie is, then you're
exactly.
like, okay, I'm in.
Like, yeah. Oh, and when you're in, you're in.
Yeah.
Well, and reading the plot kind of. It's a story in itself right there. I mean, it's so long to get just through the plot. You're like, okay, well, I'm interested now.
Also, it's not a plot movie.
No.
None of that matters, right? It's like we're just set piece to set piece in visuals. Like, don't worry about what the movie's about. It's not really about anything.
Yeah.
So last bit of
okay,
research
Fast and the Furious. Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, it's like, here's a set piece. That's fun.
Cool car, bro.
So, and grain of salt, how accurate any of this is. So, in terms of the parts of Frank, so the version where Charles Bronson could have been Frank versus harmonica.
That'd been fine.
But
yeah.
he was in the sequel.
Lee Marvin,
just so you know,
was apparently considered.
Oh, he would have been.
James Coburn was apparently considered.
Ooh.
And then Richard Boone, who I'm not familiar with, apparently was also considered. But I honestly think it was mostly the movie and the budget was all pretty much in line with Henry Fonda.
Coburn. Coburn was in the sequel.
Oh, there we go. Dope.
Yeah.
Duck, you sucker.
That's great.
Duck, you sucker. Exclamation point.
Well, I know this one was fun for me. Even though we've already done Sergio Leone, I really enjoyed a big budget, quote unquote, Sergio Leone movie. It was very fun, and he didn't disappoint with visuals, and he didn't disappoint with stretching you beyond your ability to wait for the next thing.
I felt like the script. I mean, there were so many good one-liners in it.
Oh, Mariah, go through your one-liners. We got this is how we're ending.
One-liners,
and then we're out, folks. I swear.
I got 3 that I caught, but there are
these are amazing.
Many.
So many good one-liners.
So at the beginning, Cheyenne comes in and meets Jill. Kind of does some weird threatening, rapey thing. And says, Jill, you remind me of my mother. She was the biggest whore in Alameda. and the finest woman that ever lived.
Folks at home, you can try that one for your next pickup line. Go for it.
So weird.
So funny.
Also, a Frank quote. How do you trust a guy that wears a belt and suspenders? He doesn't even trust his own pants.
I agree with this.
I didn't even notice he was wearing a belt and suspenders
so
until
good.
the line, and I was like, "Oh my
so
gosh!" Of course you don't. Like, not what was that guy's name? Bubbles.
Wobble.
Wobbles.
Bubbles.
Yeah, there
Great
was.
name.
He was quite the character for not having much of a part
so
in this,
good.
but like, yeah,
How do you trust a guy like that?
his name and his outfit alone were
Amazing.
pretty good.
Amazing.
And also, when Cheyenne's talking to Harmonica about how much money this place could have been worth if, he'd been able to execute it before he'd been killed, he's like, oh, this is like hundreds of thousands of dollars, thousands of thousands of dollars. And Harmonica goes, they call them millions. And then Cheyenne
So
kind of just
good.
sits there and goes, ooh, millions.
Yeah.
Never heard the word.
Yep. Never the word. Oh, amazing. All right, guys. Well, everyone, thanks for listening. This has been a fun one. I like these spaghetti westerns. They're so weird. It's like a time, not just to like a western time, but just this is like the 1960s and 70s are a whole different world than we're in now, and so very
Bizarre.
very
Different
glad we've
time.
moved past them in a lot of ways, but very fun to look back. And honestly, it was a really good time in filmmaking. So, yep. Thanks. This is Seth.
Pat.
And
Mariah.
signing off from How to Be a Movie Snob. Thanks for listening, guys. Keep watching movies and keep trying to be a movie snob, maybe? Don't sure. Anyways.
Question
mark? Statement?
If you
I don't
want.
know.
High pitch.
Do what you want. Bye, guys.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.